So with all my outliers, I actually start off with the eyes. I usually try and establish what sort of facial expression that I want to do. With this one, I wanted to do more of a "oh, you don't know" sort of expression. So then I moved into the horns. With a lot of them, I tend to recycle a horn shape just because I find the particular shapes that I liked, and I like to continue to use those. When I'm doing my mouth, I actually spend a lot of time looking at myself and doing the same facial expression that I want on my character, just to get some of those more subtle nuances. I do a lot of wrapping lines, and I draw all the way through the character just to ensure that I'm getting the shape volume correct that I'm looking for. And then with this one, obviously outlier number 16 is Felt Fellas, so I drew a very rough sketch, and then going into the shoes, I decided, you know what, I want to go with the same shoe style that I normally wear, which is Vans. So I did some rough work there, but I don't try and do too much detail when I'm doing the sketch, just so that way I have more wiggle room to work with later when I go to actual inking. And then, obviously I moved on to the hair and to the backpack. Now, sometimes you'll see me jump around in these artworks because I don't always know exactly what I want to do. So I will just kind of throw different things in there and see how they feel. And again, I'm always drawing all the way through my character. For me, it's really straightforward when I'm working on the line work, except for when I have something hairy that I haven't fully fleshed out in the sketch. So you'll see a lot of it is just following straight along with what I did on my sketch. I like to really pay attention to my line weights because certain things I want to stand out more than others, and the best way for me to do that is to actually go in and make sure I have thicker lines on the things that I want to draw focus on, and the things that are thinner I tend to put a lot lighter. This is also where anytime I don't have a fully realized idea, I tend to play around with. So as we see with the shoes here, I don't always want it to look exactly like it would in real life, and that's the beauty of doing things in a cartoon style. You're not stuck with being 100% accurate. As long as you can just convey the initial idea of your character, everybody tends to figure it out from there. And I do work a lot in different layers just as a way for me to be able to ensure that I can draw all the way through and get exactly what I'm looking for. And then if I don't like something, I can just erase that layer, start over. Or if I do like it, I can just erase what I need to from that layer and go into the next one. As you can see, a lot of the times when I am working on these pieces, I actually end up erasing the lines and redrawing them a second time. Some of that has to do with the fact that I'm working with Sketchbook, which allows me to auto smooth the lines. It's great for a lot of things, but sometimes I just do not get the exact line I want. The algorithm itself wants to try and snap lines in a way that I don't want them to go. When that happens, I either end up having to erase or lower the amount of snap that it does. And sometimes I just will end up doing things by hand because it just comes out exactly the way that I want it to when I do that. And yeah, the lines won't be as neat as when a computer goes back and fixes it for you, but it gives it that personal touch that I do tend to appreciate more with this work. I don't want my stuff to be 100% mechanical and precise because, what artist is actually precise? There's a lot of imperfections, but that's what makes every piece of art unique. Now with the backpack, I had no idea what I wanted in the backpack, and I didn't really want to pull too much focus there, so that's why you see there's not nearly as much detail, but there is enough to show that there's pockets and it's stitched and there's stuff inside of the backpack. It's not just, hanging there limply. But I realize a lot of these small little details that I add, most people won't even see them because they just take one quick look. But I add these details anyway because it really helps solidify the overall design, and the people that really care to take closer looks at your work will really appreciate that. Then when I'm done with the lines, I go through each layer and erase the parts that I don't need, as I mentioned before. And this process is usually pretty quick, but it also allows me to see the places where I might actually miss something. So there you can see that I've added the actual NFT that I received from the Felt Fellas collection. I took the same background from the NFT and applied that to the shirt. Same thing with the hat and the skin color of the Outlier. Those are all colors I pulled straight from the NFT as another way to pay homage to Nick Marbles for what he did for me when I was just beginning in the NFT space. Now, I know a lot of people like to go ahead and just select the layer and do a fill color, but I found that I enjoy actually taking the time and coloring it by hand myself. It kind of makes me feel like a little kid again, going back and coloring in a coloring book. And this is also a great time for me to be able to look back and make sure that I didn't miss anything. I'm constantly going back and checking because, when you're actually working on a piece, you don't always see the forest or the trees. And it's very easy to miss something that you thought you had gotten. So when I'm coloring in the hair, that's actually when I can figure out whether what I'm doing is actually working in this piece from the line work. Sometimes I need to add more lines or I need to take away in certain areas, but this is the place where I can figure out whether it's working or not. It's just one of those things that you don't really know until you know. And I also used the coloring time to really make sure that the focus is going where I want to on the piece. So I will generally try and either make things more neutral colors on the places that I don't want the focus to be, or if it is a more neutral tone character, I will add more of my brights and lights where they need to be. It's more about having that balance that you need, but you don't really know until you at least throw color on everything, and then you can go back and figure out if it really works from there. That's one of the great things about digital art. I don't have to worry so much about, I don't like this color and now I've got to take hours upon hours to change that. I can just very quickly go in and use my fill tool to change the colors that I need. So you'll see here I do a bit of bouncing back and forth. What I'm doing is I'm actually picking the colors from the original Felt Fellas logo and then adding them onto my Outliers hat, so that way I can get that accurate color and not have to try and guess closely. And this is where the color pick tool is your friend. So I finish it all up with some random colors for the eyes that don't really detract from what I'm doing. And that is the final step for this Outlier. Thanks for watching, guys, and you can find Chum Wizards on all your favorite social medias.